we're good. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran, and I have my host, Rob Greenlee, with me this morning on the bottom. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. It's great to be here again.
Well, I tell you, this messing around with YouTube, sometimes everything goes off without a hitch. We weren't only about a minute and a half late this morning, so I guess I can't complain too much. So it could have been worse. They couldn't have fired. But this morning I'm having to announce we've got Ram with us from Swell.am. He's our guest today, and we're going to talk about Swell.am. But I guess first things first, Ram, why don't you go ahead and we'll introduce you to our audience and give them a little background about yourself and Ram.am.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity. It's excited to be here. I'm co-founder of Swell. Swell is a new mobile iOS app. Information at Swell.am. It's an app that streams audio, news, and information. My own background, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I was founder of a company called Snaptel that was a pioneering mobile app in the space of mobile image recognition. Amazon acquired the company in 2009. I spent a couple of years working for Amazon as chief architect for visual search. Then myself and a few key members of the team left to start Swell. Swell's been in the works for about a year. And Swell is what we believe is the easiest way and the fastest way to consume podcasts, news, spoken word, audio. As you use the product, it learns what you like and serves more of that. My own background, I'm a computer scientist and technologist, and specialize in building technologies and bringing them to market in consumer mobile apps.
So one thing, every morning it seems like the Mac Mini wants to remind me that I have that I need to be doing something, and it makes Skype go small. Let me fix this.
Yeah, it does seem to do this every show, doesn't it?
And you know what's funny is the computer was on all night, and I think it's something when Skype is on, it just triggers it or something. I don't know. Drives me nuts. I have a solution for it. The program that's doing it's going to get deinstalled. So Ram, one thing is, we obviously know the mobile space is super super hot right now, and we just continue to see folks migrating more to smartphones and consuming content, and there's a lot of content out there that's competing, for everyone's ears and eyeballs, and I think it's cool what you guys are going to be doing with the discovery part of this. But Rob invited you on, and Rob, I know you have talked with Ram in the past. What intrigued you, Rob, to Swell and what they're doing?
Well, I think what I really, really liked about it was the kind of the simplicity of the content discovery and the simplicity of the playback. One of the big challenges in the podcast area has been helping users find the good content fast, right, and easily. And especially as you think about playback in the car, we're all used to having a very, very simple in-dash radios, right, that you just turn on and you just flip channels until you find what you want, which is pretty simplistic, right? Or you just turn it on and whatever's on, you just listen to because you're focused on driving. So I think that Swell has kind of moved into this area, which I don't believe that anybody else really has yet, of trying to recreate that radio type experience in a very simple and easy way. And I was really intrigued by it, and that's why I invited him to come on, was to kind of talk about that part, because I think it's something that the whole industry can learn from. And also I think that there's big things in the future for this app and what it's trying to accomplish.
One of the things I
Thank you
always
very much.
Rand, one of the things I always ask app developers is, there's a lot of apps out there. It's just it's almost beyond the point of it's crazy. If you look through everything, it's just hundreds and thousands of apps, and sometimes there's 1,000 apps in a specific category. So how do you break out? Obviously, you guys are very focused, and that's going to help. Is that the strategy? Is it you have to be so super focused now um, to be able to be found and discovered and build a user base? What drives people now to pick one app or the other, and what are the challenges you find or you're finding now with launch and Swell?
Absolutely. The number one thing is to create a quality product, a quality app, a service that stands out. I really, really appreciate the way Rob described it. It's a it's an experience that is minimal, that is easy to use. It's about discovery. It's about finding great content that you may never know existed. Um, Building a really awesome user experience that stands out and has great word of mouth appeal, great reviews. That really matters. There are, you know, there while there are hundreds of thousands of apps out there, there aren't that many that are in the thousands that are actually really high quality, that make the charts, that are featured. We were fortunate to be featured by Apple as new and noteworthy in the news category. This matters. It's about quality, and we have experience building mobile apps going back over 6 years, and so it's an effort to really be true to the problem we're solving. And the problem we're solving is um, just hit play for the consumer. If you don't if you don't know what you want to listen to among thousands of pieces of content out there, what do you most want to listen to? Bring that to the consumer's fingertips, and you know allow the user to listen to and enjoy the content rather than browse menus, search, worry about what to find. I want to say in terms of vision, we are new to the audio space, but really we are true to ourselves as being listeners. We started this project with the idea of making great use of time, the time that we have available when we are commuting, when we are exercising, to make use of that to learn, to stay informed, to know what's happening around the world. Um, the vision is to value the time of our users, to serve great content without any effort on their side. Um, so we thought really hard about the medium radio, and what would be the one feature that we would add that would be disruptive, that would preserve the lean back experience and yet make it more powerful. And that one feature is skip, being able to go to the next item seamlessly and listen. And so what Swell offers is an endless stream of curated, personalized audio spoken word content that can be addictive. We have a user base that's loyal, that's growing every week, and we're very excited to be doing this. We bring a listener sensibility to this as much as app developers.
So, I'm sure, and my team has talked from time to time about doing some sort of a discovery engine. And, every time I bring it up, it's I can see eyebrow wrinkles, and because discovery is hard. It's really hard, and especially when you look at the metadata that content creators provide to you. Sometimes you get a description in their show description that's nothing more than a title and maybe one line and so you're like, okay, what was this content about, and was it really about subject X, and then how do I relate that word to a topic? And so, are you guys actually indexing the audio? How are you guys getting the metadata then to work this discovery? Is there a certain amount of hand jamming that you guys are doing so that if you know that I want to listen to, let's say just I get your website here, and
Yeah.
on the screen is a TED a session. So internally, are you guys basically saying, okay, if someone likes listening to a TED series, well, let's look through and let's find 50 other audio programs that will match. And if you do that, oops, I'm sorry, if you do that, then there's an additional challenge is, okay, is the audio good of those other 50 shows? Is it something we really want to recommend as a TED quality? How, and I know that probably goes into the secret sauce of how you guys do the you know do the suggestions of what people may like, but how hard was that?
Very hard. I mean, I appreciate the depth of your question and the insight there. It is extremely difficult, and that's exactly what we've set out to solve a year and 3 months ago. So the approach, I can talk about the approach. It's a combined human and machine learning algorithm, designed to serve the user. The human element, we have our founding audio editor, Amy Machado. She was a producer, award-winning producer over at KQED, Bloomberg, and other um, um, uh, content sources. She and her team have gone in and assigned ratings to thousands of programs in our backend database, indicating what's worthy of including, what's at what level, what metadata is associated with, categories associated with the content, shelf life, how long the content ought to live. Um, we do get metadata from the content source around title, description. In some cases, we get transcripts, not in all. So these are combined then as feed into the algorithm, which then uses the metadata, and then at the episode level, that is each episode, each week, or each day that comes out for that program, decides on a rating, quality rating for that episode, for that listener. Um, Now the rating comprises many parts. It's a prior expert rating that I described, the human rating, and then a listener's own rating for that program, and then an understanding of the listener's interests, topics of interest, and that. And finally, there's also a collaborative filtering piece, which it actually is quite key, which the wisdom of the listener community on Swell weighs in and informs whether what content is really worthy of being presented. So if you like a TED talk, Swell may decide to bring you a moth podcast, for example, or another society and culture related topic. If you like a science talk on TED, then it may bring you Scientific American podcast. So that's the kind of built-in knowledge. It's a complicated algorithm. You may, as an analogy, think of Google, where you may use just a search term and outcomes results, but there's a lot of complexity that goes into how those search terms are produced. Similarly, at Swell, you hit play or you swipe, and what comes next is magical. It takes all of this into consideration.
Rob, how have you liked using the discovery part of this?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think what we're kind of on the cusp of is something that's really kind of going to be revolutionary to the space. But I think in order for us to get there, I think I was thinking about this, that the content providers probably need to think a little bit more deeply about how they can they can help a platform like Swell do a better job with their content. And I'm sure that what's happening out there, and Todd and you and I both know how different the podcast feeds are as far as how much content is filled out on there to enable proper search and parsing and prioritization. So I think we need to probably learn what things in our RSS feeds, what things do content providers need to do to optimize their podcast feeds for a platform like Swell, to basically turn on all of the features that Swell has to provide that great experience. Because I'm sure that a lot of content providers are not even considered for Swell because they're missing key pieces that can help Swell do its job.
Rob, one thing that happened to me was that I had very extensive show notes with lots and lots of links to the content that I was discussing in my weekly show. And I did that for years and years and years. And it would be, a title, some information about how to contact the show, and then, maybe 30 links below that with the context. But Google changed, a year and a half ago, changed their way they were, ranking sites, and they penalized me for having, those blog posts with all those links in there. So I had to move my links and all that great metadata off of my primary site and put it on a secondary site where my listeners could still get access to all the links of all the content I was basically covering. But I lost the ability then for, Google basically said to me, you're building a link farm, and when it really wasn't, they didn't recognize what that it was associated with. So I can understand too the point that's where some podcasters may be running into the same situation and may not be wanting to put, and I, of course, I was an extreme. I would cover 30 pieces of content during an hour and 15-minute show. So there would be a lot of links. That's extreme, and I'm sure a lot of folks don't do that. But maybe there can be some signals that we can set up in RSS. It's really easy to add tags, to come up with a tag standard where people can add more stuff, more metadata. I don't know if it's needed. Maybe we can do it within the current context. But, Ram, how much do you guys really rely on the RSS feed? Is that a critical part?
Absolutely a critical part. And actually, I really appreciate, Rob, the point that you made as well. It is indeed critical that we have metadata, title, description, transcripts, to the extent possible, information that allows us to categorize the content and match it to the listener's interests. We make use of that data. We create a tag cloud representation that represents what that content is about, what the episode is about, and match it to the tag cloud of the listener that represents the listener's interests. So we may, out of all the segments of, let's say, all the segments of Morning Edition, we select the segment that the listener most wants. If the listener is interested in technology, the segment on technology. So we do that automatically, and we can only do that if the metadata is available, the description is available in the RSS feed.
How do you ingest a transcript? Where do you tell the content creator to put the transcript at?
If it's available in the RSS feed, we pick it up. If it's available through an API, we use the API to pick that up. It begins with the genre, the category of the content, the title, a description, a paragraph description helps, and then a transcript. That, a part of the, one of the elements of our vision is to do auto segmentation. So let's say if a show consists of 4 parts, 4 different topics being covered, we want to be able to serve the segment that is most relevant to the user. And to do that, a transcript with segments marked out really helps it.
One thing that we introduced that hasn't been adopted real widely is something called meta marks, and we basically have the ability for content creators to tag within their show certain segments and topics, and they can actually lay that out in a timeline, and we provide that as as a tag. And you know, basically what it is been we've been looking for someone to work with that would take that data, and it's real simple. You know, the tag data is not complicated at all. So this is something when you talk with Angelo, maybe you can kind of talk to him about that as well. And maybe, you know, here's the thing: it's just it takes us to be able to say to the content creators, hey, Swell.am is taking this metadata, and you know, if you provide it to them, they're going to use that in part of their indexing and basically for their discovery engine. And you know, all it takes is really one, and then it will really help push the content creators to start doing that. Now, another thing um, that might be smart from a industry standpoint, like especially Rob, you know, on the podcast space, is there's really no specific tag for a transcript, but that's something easy that we can add. You know, we've already added some tags in the system in RSS, so you know, maybe that's something that we can talk about promoting, is a place where you actually drop the transcript right in the blog interface. It doesn't make it to the blog post, but it makes it to the RSS feed. So this is something to look at. But you know what's the challenge also there you run into, and this is something that we have to be cognizant of. If a guy has an hour and 15-minute show like me, and I have a transcript of that hour and 15-minute show, that's a lot of text. And what that does then is that adds to the file size of
The feed,
of
right?
the feed. So
Yeah.
what really probably needs to happen is some sort of a tag in RSS that will actually call out a location where
Yeah.
that transcript is, versus dropping the entire transcript into the feed. Because if we blow the feed up, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be happy with that. Not only from a bandwidth standpoint, but a load time and syndication time and everything else. It's, you know, we don't want to triple or quadruple the feed size. So there's some cool things here that as a group, you know, we can go through and, you know, basically all we have to do is just push it and then make it available.
Yeah, yeah, Todd. It does seem like that this raises a lot of needs as far as uh, the industry, as a podcasting industry, and even the radio folks, to rally around some sort of standards in how we put out feeds with content in them. Because if we don't, then we create this environment where shows don't get a fair shot because they don't have complete metadata to basically turn on all the features of a platform like Swell. That somehow we need to have like a standards document for the industry about, you know, metadata and all these things. And I know that Apple has tried to do that, you know, with their namespace and things like that. And I know you have, but you know, as we move into this kind of this new era of really kind of smart search and smart discovery, I think that there's probably new challenges that RAM is bringing to the table for the industry to address. Because I think what the danger is here is that we could have this segmentation of content based on the real professional folks and the more, you know, the indie folks, the ones that are maybe not doing everything right, or they don't know how to do it all right, and they don't get a fair shot in the market. So you have this segmentation that happens again, where the real professional folks get all the attention, and the home podcaster doesn't really get a fair shot anymore. So I don't know what you think about those
You
concepts.
know, I think we can bring, you know, luckily, the majority of the people that are podcasting are using WordPress, and the majority of those are also using PowerPress. So just by virtue of their position in the space, you know, it's real easy for us to push some new namespaces in. It's not, I mean, this is not a hard thing at all. Now, the problem that you refer to, Rob, is that we have no central body that is basically, there's no organization anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very, very hard for anyone to start an organization and keep people's agendas out. I think the thing that we have to do is take input from from companies that like Rams, and say this is what they need and this is what they want.
Yep.
And let's feed the beast. Let's make sure that we get this data in there, because really what it boils down to, we want lots of people listening to the content. We just, and if they find us through discovery, fantastic. That's what you want. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same point, doing
And we would love to
transcripts,
facilitate that. Yeah.
doing transcripts is not necessarily an easy thing even now for a lot of content creators. I have messed with transcripts before, and I try to do automated transcripts, and it's gotten better. But to actually pay someone to actually do a transcript, even if you outsource it overseas, it's still expensive, and most of the content creators can't afford to have professional transcripts done. So maybe, Ram, as you guys are moving forward and you're working to improve your metadata, when you guys don't have a transcript from someone, there's got to be some consideration maybe on your part to do some auto discovery and auto indexing, and maybe put it in the back end. Now, I know that takes a lot of hardware and a lot of time, and that's not something simple to do. But just the pure fact that it costs so much to do a professional transcript is a concern. And Rob, it goes back to your point.
Well, Todd, I'm not so sure that RAM is really looking for like a full transcript. I think.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, I can
RAM.
jump in.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, not really. I mean, we can work with a description. I want to say, Todd, I look forward to the conversation with Angelo on your team. We would love to facilitate discovery. So this problem of getting more listeners on, getting great content found by listeners. To do that, we can start with the title, the description. Segmented content would be ideal, and transcripts would be ideal, but we can also run, speech to text on our back end to extract text. Knowing the boundaries of where segments end would be really useful. If that could be provided in the analysis feed more easily, that would work. That would be great. So, if it's expensive to create a transcript, that may not be necessary, not in every case. So there is, the description helps, and the goal here is to understand what topics are covered in the content and how that matches the listener's interests. And I want to say we're very excited to work with the podcast community to try to solve this problem, and the goal is absolutely to bring more listeners to solve this problem in a way that's focused on the user, the listener. And in fact, this is an example right here is this show, the new media show, is of great interest to listeners out there, and there are surely people in the Silicon Valley community who haven't heard of this show. I mean, I hadn't, for some time, and I'd love to have found it through a service like Swell,
Right.
And that's really what's motivating us to do it.
And Rob, so maybe he's right. Maybe it's just the segments. Maybe it's the chapter. And that's something we've already implemented. So it's something that and we just have to tell the content creators that someone's ingesting that, and once we do, that adds incentive for the folks that want to break out to be able to be found. If you look at my, let's go back to my show again, my primary show that I do twice a week, and I shouldn't say this isn't a primary show, it is, but my primary tech show, that content is really expirable. It's got about a week maybe, and it's done. It's news. It's what's happening in the space right now. So it's not like a TED talk. So from a standpoint of, and the majority of podcast content doesn't have a super long tail, but maybe through your discovery it extends the tail a little bit on the content, because a lot of stuff is topical, may not expire. But what are you doing about the content that that expires. The content that like my show in 5 days. They don't want to hear about the Microsoft acquisition of Nokia. They want to hear about starting next week they're going to hear about the Apple announcement. So what how are you guys handling that?
Yeah, so we're very careful about expiring content that's no longer fresh. Part of what goes into the metadata for content is a shelf life. Is that content best heard for a day, for a week, in the morning, in the evening? What um, and the backend system expires content as soon as it does, and the software, the client does it as well. So that's a big part of how Swell works, is to make sure that what you're hearing is fresh and up to date. It solves the problem that many people have of downloading, maintaining, and managing podcasts.
Right.
It's a hassle, right? It's a chore. So instead, you simply focus on the content, enjoy the content, and listen to it. You can find older episodes via search in Swell. And I want to say, for those, just to be, just to make sure that people in the audience know, Swell is available for download now. Has been for the last 2 months on the iOS App Store. We are working on the Android version that's going to be in beta later this fall. So please go ahead and download it. We love to hear feedback. We've received a lot of feedback. The focus of the service is discovery, recommendation, finding great content. Love to hear your comments, suggestions. You can find an individual show through search and listen to it. And that, going back to older episodes, if that's what you choose. But the service, when it serves you content, it's always fresh and it's always relevant to your interest.
Rob?
Yeah, so I was looking at the app and things, and I know that on your front page it talks about news radio being rebooted, but I guess that kind of implies that you guys are kind of specializing in news content, but that isn't necessarily the case, right? You're going into all of the audio genres out there and offering a solution, right?
Absolutely. Actually, we struggle with that label. Should it be podcast rebooted, or should it be news radio rebooted? Is it a mix? What is the blend? So the service does begin with a news update. Just bringing the listener up to date on what's happening in the world, which you might consider news. But then as you listen, it goes into podcasts. You may hear a Moth, or you may hear Geek News Central, you may hear another podcast. As you listen longer, it exposes you to more content. And so it is really a blend of news and podcasts. It's, like I said earlier, it's focused on what the listener wants, and not a sort of an artificial distinction between the two. It's audio spoken word content.
It's cool to see some fresh apps out there that are basically working in the space. And just so that the audience knows, Ram and I had a discussion earlier in the week, and we're going to basically, they're very curious about making sure that the content creators are kept in the loop as well. So while the content is going out and being consumed by the audience, we're going to be talking with them and working on potential ways to get some signaling back to be able to feed into individual shows, some metric systems to be able to get some metrics off of the listen data, how many people are listening to the content. So that's very, very early in that discussion, but it's nice to see that you guys are thinking about that and understand that the content creators are really wanting to be part of the process. And I think that's important at this point. Don't you think, Rob, is that the content creators know that they got someone that cares, and at the same time, they're getting a little feedback from them on what's really happening with their content, and it allows them to make adjustments where they need to as well. If they're not getting the type of exposure they want, maybe they can come out and reach out to their team and say, hey, I'm not getting a lot of traction here. What do I need? And maybe that in turn will help drive the whole the meta discussion. But
Yeah.
what's your any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that that's what I'm trying to do is I talk to new platforms, like Swell, is to pull them into the community and get them um, kind of aware of the long-term things that have happened with other platforms in the past, kind of learn from the past and help them understand what the challenges are going forward, and because being a friend of the content community can be very powerful for a
Right.
platform, because those podcasters and those radio folks are speaking to a lot of listeners that can drive a lot of usage to your platform if they really like what you're doing and they're on board and they're a fan of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's really, really important here. And I really appreciate Ram's effort in reaching out to you and trying to get more in sync with that kind of stuff. So I really commend him for that, and I think it bodes well for the future of the company.
And conversely, they can be pretty mean too.
Yeah, they can be, and we've seen it right
Yeah, they can,
firsthand. Yeah,
and they can be very vocal about it, and oftentimes it may not be public. It might be directed via email campaigns or some sort of a thread somewhere. So yeah, the proactive side is the better side to be on, and I think and most of the content creators are very understanding in that company takes time. They're getting started. They're getting involved in the community. They understand what's going on, and so there's a certain amount of I guess how should we say it? The honeymoon time is there's a certain amount of that is good. But I think I told Ram the same thing on our private call was that yeah, if you can get the content creators jazzed about your product and you're giving them some cool data back, I mean they will talk you up over someone else, and that's probably as important as anything else. And and also consumers consume content a multitudes of ways. When I go out looking for content, I'm looking for something very specific. But there is times I'm just saying, okay, just throw me something. So there is a use case both ways. So it's good that they've got the search and that the discovery stuff is cool too. So
Yeah. I want to say we love podcast content. We love we really appreciate the effort that goes into creating podcast content, and we're absolutely committed to working with the community to to make make the model work. Um, Absolutely deliberate attempt to reach out and to work with the community. We just had uh, Jason Calacanis and his show This Week in Startups featured. We have a blog post up highlighting the content, and there've been tweets about it. We really appreciate content creation and the effort, the awesome content that's being created every day. And that's what makes the platform possible.
so what is your biggest what drives you guys, with every system there's one thing that you guys probably have at your number one top of your list that drives you crazy from content creators. What is the number one thing that we can do as content creators to help you?
Um, I think that segmenting content would come to somewhere near the top would be something that would be great. Um, you know, I want to say shorter, more, so we have this sort of real big challenge where what is the right length of content, right? So for a person that has a few hours, a couple of hours to listen, what is the right length of content? And so having content fit the listener's schedules rather than vice versa,
Yep.
that's a really big challenge. Um, Maintaining freshness, maintaining the metadata of content would be great. Um,
You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've always told people my show is a two commute listen. It's at a minimum a two commute. So in order to listen to an hour 15-minute show, you have to love that show. Because if not, they're going to listen to the first 20 minutes and they're going to bounce. So the content has to remain compelling. It has to be relevant, and you can't waste their time. That's the main thing. So I think from the audience will listen a long time. I listen to a show that is 2.5 hours. And that's a long time to listen to a single show, but the content's compelling and it's entertaining and it doesn't waste my time. So I think that's, and I understand you guys trying to find a sweet spot there to keep people's attention, because we all have 140 character attention span right now. Um,
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
So, so Ram, I wanted to ask you about the it's a very similar question to what we were just talking about there about length. It feels like the app has this really amazing ability to have a like a serendipity experience of content discovery where things just audio segments just show up and they very much align with the topics that I like through this auto learning. But also a lot of listeners also have their favorite shows, right? And oftentimes, like Todd was saying, oftentimes those favorite shows are longer shows. So how do you handle that that tug of war between shows that I want to listen to every week with every episode that comes out versus taking advantage of the power of your app to really discover and be kind of amazed by new content that matches with the things that I want to listen to?
Great, fantastic question, Rob. I mean, it's the central challenge with what we're building. It's absolutely the right question. So what goes to the heart of this is this question of short versus long, short, medium, long. What is the right length of content to present a listener? And so the approach we've taken is, as you listen, as you use the app, it serves. It begins with a short update, and then it may serve you a short content for the first the second track that you hear. And then as you listen, as you get in 10 minutes and 15 minutes into listening, it may serve you a longer podcast that matches your interest, especially if you've listened to it in the past. If you've liked it in the past, then it's going to bring that to you. So if you listen to Geek News Central podcast 2 weeks in a row, it's going to bring it to you the third week. Even if you didn't ask for it, it's going to bring it to you, and it's going to, and you can give it a signal by liking it on the front of the card. So it combines the predictability of bringing you great content that you like with discovery, and trying to make intelligent use of the time that you have available when you're driving or when you're exercising or in the kitchen. It is, so this is something we think really hard about, really deeply about, and and it's going to get better. It is, the power of the service is you don't have to think about what you want to listen to. You just turn it on, and all of this happens automatically. Your energy is you don't spend energy finding and browsing. You just listen to the content and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience of listening.
Yeah, and I think Rob, one thing that will probably drive the features on their system will be the feedback. If you are, if there is a desire at some point for people to build a favorites list or something like that, or a must-have list, that will probably be something that they'll add to the system. I know for me, there are set number of shows I have to listen to. Part of it is business intel, finding out what other companies are doing in the space that I work with, and then stuff that I like to listen to from a leisure standpoint. So but you've got me completely intrigued on the whole discovery thing. So I know what I'm going to be playing with this afternoon, and just seeing how well it develops and leads from my taste, I guess, for a better word.
Yeah, because Todd, the app does have the ability to bookmark content and
Oh,
also to search for content too. So you can pull up the shows that you like and add them to your bookmarks list.
yeah.
So it has that ability.
Oh,
It's
that's
just on the playback side. It's juggling that, that serendipity versus your regular shows.
right.
Yeah.
Are you guys working on any push stuff as well,
Yes.
Ram, where, if you've got a show that's bookmarked and there's a new episode pops, they get a text message or something like that that basically says, hey, a show you've got bookmarked is just released and it's available?
You got it, Todd. That's exactly what we do. It's in fact letting you know that your favorite show just became available. In fact, that's a great tool. It's a we are very mindful of not being spammy or not
Yeah.
being not annoying our users. We call it frustration free. It's a service that's smooth and easy. Yeah, so it's mindful of that.
I think it's important today too, because it's every time, the people are really, how should I say it? Their lives are full. And, and that's why I've always told content creators, produce your show on the same day, same time release. And that way people can kind of build you into their lifestyle schedule. But I think it's important too that I should have been actually blonde, because I can have, and the blondes in the audience, don't take this the wrong way, but I can have blonde moments where I can kind of spaz out a little bit, and so I have to always have myself. I work on task lists and reminders and schedules. Yeah, I live by it. If I don't do it, I'm probably a little ADHD if they ever were to put me on the spectrum. So I really have to live by that type. So I like stuff that says to me, hey, knucklehead, that's available. And it's like, oh yeah. And then it's like, boom, I can jump to it. I'm very spur of the moment type of a person, but I think a lot of people are that way now. We're also, we're slammed, and our jobs are requiring us to do so much with the economy having drawn down, and 5 people are doing the job of 1 person now, and it's just a lot of stuff. So I think the notification part is, at least for me, is critical. Some people may not want to be annoyed, but I know that I'd rather be annoyed than or be reminded than to say, oh man, I forgot
Yeah.
to listen to that show this week.
Fantastic.
Ram, oh,
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, Ram, I was just going to ask you, so has your team thought about live programming as well as you throw into this mix?
We have thought of live programming, and especially in the form of breaking news updates or something that's happening out in the world right now. So we have that in mind. We don't, there's a question of how that fits in seamlessly into the Swell experience of listening to content with audio cards, swiping one after the other. It is, especially when something's important going on in the world, life is important, and we're working on that, figuring out a solution to that. That's part of our vision. We have the notion of a daily live editor who goes into our back office system that and inserts content that is important at the moment for listeners to listen to.
I wonder, yeah, this raises a whole different thought process I actually can't reveal on the air right now, so we'll have to talk about that offline, because I think there's some potential solutions out there that would help them with that. So, because people are now, it's all about the guy with the camera, or not with the with the cell phone. It's not can basically he's on the scene, basically reporting about something that might not be the content you're looking for, but definitely companies like ESPN, and they every hour they have their news updates
Absolutely.
with the stuff, and Bloomberg and a variety of others always have these regularly scheduled updates. Fox, CNN, they all do that on their audio side as well. I don't think CNN does. Fox does, because I think they've got some radio network stuff. I don't think CNN does, but Yeah, that kind of stuff is cool as well. Breaking news type things would be important.
Well,
Um,
that and also a lot of podcasters. So you may be bookmarked to follow a podcast, right? But
right?
maybe that podcast is broadcasting live,
Yeah.
and it happens to be available now. I think most live podcasts today are primarily video, but there's nothing to keep it from functioning just using the audio portion to feed to the app. As an option. I know that some of the podcast apps, like from Twit and I think Mr. Anduzarian does some live audio as well from the GFQ network.
Yeah. This
And so
show,
if
we
you, yeah, I mean, well,
That's
the
right.
show too. So I think that there's more and more content providers that are making available live broadcasts. And if you're a bookmark and following a show in an app like this, you know, I don't see any technical reason why that couldn't be funneled into that app. Anyway.
I don't know if there's any limitation on yeah, it shouldn't be an issue because we push to a shoutcast server and almost, yeah, I think any device can actually tap that and be able, but there's also, well, it's really not even a bandwidth intensive thing. Audio is so low on the bandwidth spectrum that even live audio is negligible
Yeah.
from a bandwidth standpoint, so it
Yep.
shouldn't be an issue. But very, very cool. So, Ram, what do you see then from the audience? Are they do they come and stay, and do you, because of the discovery engine, are you feeling that you're getting much longer, but them staying on the app much longer? And what are you guys going to do down the road? And this thing's somehow got to pay for itself. So what are you guys going to what's your business model? And basically, is it tied to obviously the more hours they're on, the better, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're seeing really strong engagement. Just a volume of feedback that's coming in from users asking for features, asking for controls. Um, in terms of engagement, we see listeners listen for on average, over 40 minutes a day and over 120, over 2 hours a week. Our power users listen between 4 to 6 hours per week. We have some really passionate users that are addicted to the service. In fact, our Series A round of investment came in through our investor Josh Stein, who really loved the service. It's really some of our traction, some of our the momentum has come from dedicated users that are on the service. So we are energized. The team is energized by the feedback, by the support from the users. And as far as business model, we will introduce ads in the service down the line. We'll introduce a subscription model for premium features. That's going to come. It's so just as some of the other players in the space. Ads and subscriptions are the ways to monetize. And as the service scales, there is opportunity available. The audience, the demographic of the audience is really attractive. It's a professional commuter, typically someone that has little time, wants to stay informed, and may listen to it in their car or listen to it when they're out and about. So it's a great audience for advertisers to reach.
Rob, any thoughts on the space?
So, Ram, are you guys thinking about an in-car dash app here in the future, a version of it, or are you just going to stick with the smartphone part that plugs in via Bluetooth or a wire? What's your thoughts on that?
I think the smartphone app that communicates with the dash intelligently is perhaps the right approach. Building custom apps for dashboards seems less scalable and less convenient for the consumer. The consumer is already carrying, the user is already carrying a dashboard, carrying,
It's
sorry, smartphone.
it's very
Target,
expensive too.
that's right, it's very expensive. Tata, just saw you. So our approach is indeed to focus on the smartphone, um, make it ubiquitous, make it available. The Bluetooth connectivity with auto dashboards is improving. Apple's introducing an iOS service for cars next year. Android is growing like incredibly. So building on the smartphone platforms and communicating well with the dashboard, having content metadata show up on the display via Bluetooth, via cable connected to the dashboard. Those are the approaches we have in mind.
Yeah, because I mean, it's certainly being done in two ways, right? It's being done through the phone, and then it's also being done in dash. And I know more and more cars, and we've just seen the beginning of it here. I think over the next couple of years, there's going to be just an onslaught of cars that have like app stores that are built into the console. And I think it's definitely coming, but I do agree with you, Ram, that I think that probably the optimum model and the one that most people are going to have, because the in-car dash app store kind of experience is usually at this point is going to be more in the high-end vehicles, and those aren't typically sold at the huge numbers. Then in the low-end models, I think what you're going to see is more smartphone app reproductions on the console, and not as much kind of in-dash apps per se. So I think that's exact. I mean, that's basically what I'm seeing in the market happen. Is that something that you're seeing as well, or
Yep.
are you guys there yet on that?
Yeah, I would agree. That's what we're seeing in the market. It's because the pace at which smartphones iterate is just so incredible, so amazing, that it's hard for a car dashboard to match that speed. So mirroring the app experience on the dashboard does seem like the right approach. And the lowest common denominator is actually not bad of Bluetooth, of connectivity to the dashboard. And the thing about Swell is with our app Swell, it doesn't take much control to use it. If all you did was listen or skip, listen or move to the next item, that's enough control to enjoy Swell. And so it actually doesn't require a complicated dashboard app to do it. You simply connect via Bluetooth or via cable, and you can listen.
And in my vehicle, there's usually a couple kids on board, and they do not want to listen to what I listen to. So they're, they're plugged in, and they're listening to what they want to listen to. So, I think it's becoming that way in households too. It used to be where there was a single TV. Whoever ruled the remote control ruled what was being watched and listened to. But now, the average home, I think, has 5 TVs. So you could have 5 different experiences, or people are on, 10 different experiences with people all having laptops and watching TV at the same time. And so
yeah, I think one.
Go ahead.
One of the challenges though with that is that I think that there's a different kind of user experience that's going to be expected on the console dash than what's on the phone, and there's the other kind of challenge of making kind of almost like 2 UIs that also have the ability to plug into controls on the steering wheel too. So
Right.
you have kind of a challenge on that side too, where apps may have to be able to adapt to the screen and the fact that it's being used in a car, and then having car controls be able to work with it. I think that's the challenge that I think app developers are going to have going forward, is making that capability built into their apps.
I agree. Yeah, and again, what helps from our perspective, what helps is minimality. Minimality is in just the right amount of control. You don't need to be able to search when you're driving, right?
Right.
I hope you're not searching when you're driving, but you're enjoying listening to the content. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
And what I really love is that when the video guys, when we talk to folks that are video centric, it's about the visual experience, and really what the audio thing is we all have a lot more time to listen than we have to watch, and I say that probably every time we do this show. So, if you're in the cubicle at work or you listen to music and you want to change up, you don't have to be, you can still continue to do what you're doing and still listen. So, um, I can see where there's a lot of compelling use cases for Swell, especially if can you change now if let's say for example I'm listening to tech, okay, I get tired of listening to tech and I want to kind of switch to a comedy genre. Does it understand that I have kind of switched what I want to listen to at this time and then start stacking up additional comedy shows for me?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can say right at the moment you want to listen to comedy, and it serves you comedy tracks, and then learns also that you like comedy and brings you more comedy in the future, and all of that happens automatically without once you select comedy, that begins.
That's good because so many apps I've seen before, they have this tendency to run home to mama. Basically you've been listening to one topic and you switch to another and it says, no, now I want you to go back and listen to that other topic. And I'm, no, I don't want to listen to the topic. I want to listen to this new genre, So it's smart that it doesn't run home to mama. And you can probably learn a lot about a person's profile as well as they listen to stuff too. You rack up that data, that metadata. It's pretty interesting stuff. But I can see why the code base on this. Like I said, every time I mention it, I get the forehead scrunch because I know that I'm asking them to do 6 months worth of code or a year or whatever it would take. Where do you think the whole mobile space is going to go then, Ram? Worldwide, we're seeing a lot more smartphones come on the market. Any predictions on the Apple announcement this coming on the 10th? Is it going to make a difference, or is it going to be more of the same?
Yeah, I think it is going to. I think there is Apple, iOS, and Android continue to be dominant. Apple's announcement, iOS 7 has introduced some features, iBeacon, which is the ability to control accessories using Bluetooth, low energy Bluetooth, AirDrop, this ability to share files, and some innovation in iOS 7. New devices rumored are going to be announced. I don't know.
What about how's
yeah.
the supposedly the radio thing that they're introducing? Do you think that's going to impact you guys, or is it just Apple's going to have their partners and there's not going to be very many selections? What do you think their game plan is there?
It's focused on music, as I understand it, not on spoken word, on podcasts. We'll see when it comes out. I think I'm a big believer in rising tide lifts all boats. If there are more players, that's great for the community. That's great for the service. We have an approach that's unique to Swell, and that approach is what we believe will take us to success. It's already happening.
Rob, big announcement by Microsoft, basically acquiring the iconic brand Nokia. So what's I don't know if you can talk anything about this, but what's the scuttlebutt in the hallways there?
Well, and actually, they didn't really acquire the brand Nokia. Actually, they just acquired all the
Right.
people and the manufacturing capability for making phones. I mean, essentially, Nokia still has their brand, and I think it was a little bit of a misunderstood kind of deal that happened. I mean,
But
so
but
what the
but
oh,
in all instances though, Nokia is going to be underneath the Microsoft flagship, right?
well, it's actually they bought the division, but they didn't buy the brand Nokia. So it was, I think it was not very well understood uh, what actually was acquired by Microsoft. I don't believe that you're going to see Nokia phones like Microsoft Nokia Lumia phones. You're going to see Microsoft Lumia phones.
You don't
So
so you don't so do you think that they're going to continue to build Nokia phones? Can they do that
um,
anymore?
yeah, the Nokia company, um, after some period of time, I think it's 2020 something, they can come out with new phones under the Nokia brand. Yes,
Oh, so but for now, no more Nokia phones.
correct.
Okay.
Um,
It,
and
it's
and
Ram. That sounds like an acquisition to me.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, really, if you
Does
think about it, one of the things that's going on is that the company is trying to simplify and pull into more of a unified kind of brand experience, right? They've they've been beat up so much over the years for creating these really long brand names, right? And to Windows Phone, Lumia, Nokia, so let's bring it down to a more simple terminology and brands and kind of limit that, so the company can really apply some focus. So what the company bought here was the ability to make phones, essentially. And they got 32,000 hardware people and people that are experts in building mobile devices, right? So that's what they basically bought for the 7 point something billion dollars.
And I think what most people don't realize too is if you travel outside the United States and you go into Europe, you go into some of the third world countries, with lower economies. What do you see? They're carrying Nokia phones because they are truly a
Mm-hmm.
global brand. They may not have a very big footprint in the United States, but they have
Yep.
just a tremendous global footprint. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
so
So the company did acquire the Lumia
the
brand,
Lumia
right?
brand,
That's been associated with Nokia. So as you look into the future, that Lumia brand will be a very important brand to all the mobile devices that are going to come out from this deal. Nothing is going to change the Lumia phones that we have today are basically it's the same team, the same hardware, the same everything with the Lumia brand. It's just that the Nokia name is not going to be used at some point here in the future, is what's happening here.
okay.
So so really the Nokia company has kind of kept the pieces that they wanted to keep, right? And the patents and things like that have been kind of I don't know, leased or loaned to the company as part of this deal.
Right.
So that's kind of what's happening here, and I think it it really signals kind of a real commitment on the part of the company to this hardware and services strategy, right?
Well, it also says that Microsoft has come to the realization that mobile better be a big part of their business. And they're going to
Yeah,
have to focus more resources on it because if not, is mobile devices get more powerful and they're already pretty powerful, they're going to get their lunch ate. Because Apple and Android or iOS and Android are going to continue to erode, even hate to say it, like a desktop experience as well. So
yeah.
um, I
Well, I
think
think that, I mean, I think a lot of people jump to the conclusion that the whole desktop market is dead and it's dying and all that stuff. What I think is going on is just a shift in how people use computers, right? So this whole tablet movement, it, everything is becoming a mobile device, right? It doesn't matter what the size of the screen is. It can be used on a desktop. I mean, it's not like people are stopping working on desktops, right? It's just that what they're doing on the desktop is using more of what we can consider to be a mobile device. It has that versatility, right? And I also think that tablets are made this big shift over to be portable devices, but I think that there's a large number of business users out there that want to have a more traditional PC type of experience, right, or capability, right, where they bring their tablet and it gets docked and it gets displayed on a big screen monitor. I think that capability is not going away. So it's just the form factor of the PC is moving more towards flat screen mobile devices as its core use case, just like what we're seeing in the car, where the small mobile portable device is now going to be driving our car console, right? It's the same kind of thing.
right.
yeah. Go ahead, Ram.
I agree. I agree with you, Rob. I mean, it is a trend towards tablet computing, and that's That's where really Microsoft needs to come in and have a presence. They're so far behind.
Yeah.
I think there's a distinction between what people use for creating content versus what they used to consume. And so the
Yep.
consumption behavior is predominantly mobile, tablets and smartphones.
Yeah, I just really think Microsoft has got a long road to hoe. I think they've got some challenges, and I think with Balmer leaving,
Hmm.
it's time, and they're going to have to bring someone in that has, the understanding of where the space is going, and without some leadership change at the top, hopefully they make a wise choice on their new CEO because
Yeah.
otherwise, you know, for the first time, I still haven't made a decision. For the first time ever, I am very close to departing from being I got a Windows machine sitting right here in front of me. I travel with a Mac and a Windows machine, and so I'm very, very close to making the jump, and I don't necessarily want to because my ecosystem is all right here, all the software that I bought and everything else. So, um, that's for me. If you'd have told me 10 years ago I was considering buying a Mac for my desktop, I'd have threw you out of my house. It just it wasn't consideration. But anyway,
Well,
I guess we'll
yeah. I
see.
mean, yeah. I mean, for a long time, Microsoft just didn't have competition, right?
Right.
And so, that's what's changed. I mean, as I think back on it too, I've been in the kind of computer space for a long time. I've been a loyal Windows user, still am, and I just see the shift coming where, wow, Microsoft actually has some valid competitors out there
That's right.
that are doing things, maybe even, I mean, better than they are, and I think it's really challenging the company to catch up. And I know that the big gap right now that's really making it difficult for Microsoft is their their developer support, which was what gave them their success to begin with, and I, I hope that can come back again. And folks like, RAM and Swell and stuff will build for the Windows Phone platform or Windows.
Exactly.
Um, also,
And what it boils down to is the developer's going to go where the money is, and the
that's
money
right.
is following the biggest installed user base,
Yep.
and so Microsoft has to gain,
Market share, right?
market share, and if they don't, the developers won't come back. It's just, it's
It's the chicken and the egg issue, right? I mean,
yeah,
you can't grow your platform if you don't have the apps, but if
right.
you have the apps, sure, you can grow the platform. It's just getting app developers to build apps before there's a big market share,
And
right?
a while ago when Microsoft was paying developers, and I don't know if they're still doing that now, I said
No,
smart.
no, they still are, sure.
It's smart because if they don't, they're going to get completely left behind. So they have to. So anyway, we have digressed completely, but we'll see what happens on the 10th with Apple. Be honest with you, I'm prepared to be underprepared. I'm prepared to be underwhelmed.
Whelmed.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. They're coming out with some features, but to me, it looks like more of the same, and I don't know. I think they need to. What I'm really waiting for, Ram, and this is something I've been waiting for 2 to 3 years, is a true Apple TV. I want I want Apple to do to the television what they did to the mobile industry, and there's going to be an upgrade to Apple TV, but I think that ecosystem is going to continue to be closed. Is there any real reason why they is can anyone Ram? Do you have any idea why they have still have us locked out of that box? Is there any
Yeah, that's a really big question. It's a very large industry with a lot of players and ecosystem. Breaking into it, you have the cable companies that have a monopoly. There is, the unbundling cable content so consumers can get to watch what they want to watch. It's going to happen. It's going
but
to take some time. It is,
why
yeah.
is the Apple TV now not like my iPhone where I can get Swell on the Apple TV? The Apple TV is so constrained with just partners on there now.
Yeah.
the only thing I'm thinking is that Apple's trying to make that, a big revenue base, and they're not the rest of third party apps. They could care less. But I think the only way that thing's really going to succeed and explode is if they open it up to
I agree.
Swell and other folks.
Yeah, we would love to offer a Swell-like experience on an Apple TV.
Yeah,
And, to do that, that would be, I mean, I think it would be awesome if that can be opened up, but also more content that you want to watch and listen to.
yeah, yeah. I just don't understand their whole mindset behind this thing. It's baffled me for the longest. But the
Todd, I'm not so
Xbox.
sure
Go
that
ahead, Rob.
the Apple TV of today is really what Apple is working on. I
Oh,
think
um,
they may be working on something completely new that may be built on top of it. But the real solution that users want, and I think Apple has probably seen this, is a more complete replacement for the current set-top box
yeah.
world that's out there that actually um, does all of the things that a lot of users want. And I don't believe that the Apple TV is. I mean, they've always called it a hobby. I don't think it was a hobby. I think it was research
Yeah.
of what users really want. And I think that the company's found that users really don't want a device like that.
Well, I think they want a device like that has, more functions.
Yeah, no,
It's,
it's a beginning, but it's not the end game, is what I'm trying to say.
I load my Roku. I don't load my Apple TV. And why do I load my Roku? There's more choices on the Roku, So,
Yeah, yeah,
until
that's
they
right.
open that up, and I don't, and when it comes to the Xbox, I don't open the Xbox to get content. I open the Roku to get content. So until someone at Microsoft and at Apple figures that out and makes those platforms more open, but I also understand that the Xbox is a ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. The cash register rings every time someone turns one on. So, um, but anyway, I
Said
guess.
so succinctly, yes.
Well, it's true. Yeah, but it's a it's you look at the financial reports. Xbox is not a insignificant number in the company's revenues. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, well, we've anything else, Rob, that you wanted to talk to Ram about on Swell, that which can be found at Swell.am, and of course on the iTunes store.
Yeah, Ram, I wanted to ask you, and I know that the last time we talked, I didn't really get a chance to ask you about this, but what is the climate right now for kind of VC investment in audio apps like what you're building? Is it coming back? I know that probably 5 or 6 years ago, the VC investment community was pretty aggressive about audio and podcasting and things like that. Is it starting to turn around now? And why do you think that's happening now, if it is?
Yeah, I think it's podcasting is coming back. Apple mentioned that they crossed 1 billion podcast downloads, and NPR alone, in that announcement, NPR alone had over 35 million downloads a month. So there's a belief that podcasting is coming back, and there's interest in the space, interest in what services like Swell are doing. It's a new time. Smartphone penetration is at an all-time high. The ability to listen to via your smartphone in your car has become much easier. Bluetooth penetration for new cars is more than half the cars that are sold. There's trends that favor investment in the space, favor innovation in the space, and that's what we're saying. It's a difficult space. It certainly takes effort to create a big service, but it's the investment community, mobile being the foundation for the future, services that consume, that absorb the consumer's attention and offer value for consumers' time with audio content I think have great potential.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's I know what the VC said in 2005. And they didn't want to have anything, it was man, long
Well,
story.
some actually did. I mean,
Yeah.
I worked for a couple of I worked for a startup that had about 25,000 or 25 million in VC, and it was around audio content on mobile. I mean, that was back in 2005 and six. So I mean, there were VCs out there that were fairly aggressive. And I think, as you're looking at it now, I think it's really fascinating. Back when we had Norm on from Podcast One, I think he really brought up what the issue was, is that this area is starting to be thought of in the same light as broadcast radio now.
Right.
And that's a $16 billion, area. So maybe there's kind of this nexus that's happening, that starts to present more opportunity around building real businesses around this stuff. Where back in 2008, 9, and 10, there just wasn't that synergy between radio and podcasting.
Well, radio's starting to be impacted by digital.
Yep,
So,
that's part of it. Yep.
and be honest with you, the radio buyers are they want a job next week, and if they need to be looking at the podcasting space as a way to make sure that they have a paycheck, because as radio starts to decline, and the audio content on the internet continues to rise, it's going to take some years, but there's going to be a crossover, and these guys got to make sure that they that $16 billion that's being spent in the space moves into content that is available, via the smartphone, and
Yep. And keeps growing. That 16 billion becomes 17 billion versus becoming 15 and 14 and 13, which is what would happen if they continue down the path they are of not doing a great job like what Swell is doing out
Right.
there, of moving people into where they want to be with this content.
Yep, not being forced to listen to what's on the dial, being able to listen to what you want to with your thumb, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I think you guys are in a great, you're in a great position, Ram.
Thank you.
So we look forward to see what's going to happen with Swell as we move down the road. And I know that you've got the podcasters, goodwill for sure, and you guys are really concerned about making sure that the content creators are happy, and that's very important to the content creators. And it's good that you verbalize that, because if they hear it, they'll know, and that's then if they don't hear anything from you guys, then they'll question. So, and content right now is king. It's everyone's fighting for content, and it's you guys doing what you're doing. I think is smart and making it easier for listeners, because no one's really focused a lot on the listener experience for a long time. Rob, any final thoughts for Ram?
No, I don't think so. I think it was great, and I wish him the most luck with his app. And I'm going to be supportive and promoting him out there and what he's trying to accomplish, because I think it's really important for the growth and maturation of the space.
I agree. Any Rob, who do we have on next week?
We have on the fellow from Creative Live. He's rebooked and coming back.
Okay.
And Mr. Chase Jarvis, the CEO and co-founder of Creative Live, and he's doing premium live series, kind of learning video shows. So you pay like a monthly fee or a weekly fee to get access to a series of shows that can basically instruct you on how to be a better photographer, or it's basically like a learning network, essentially, is what it is. So it'll be really great to talk to him about that, because he's kind of in this on-demand video space.
And he's not coming back from a international trip this time either.
Yeah, he was very, very apologetic for missing the show last time, and he's very enthusiastic about getting back on and talking it up with us. So,
I do want to read an email that came in from a listener, and
oh yeah, I saw that one too.
this came
Yeah.
in from Michael, and he says, "Hey guys, I wanted to throw some comments your way regarding some of the content you discussed from episode 18. I think you both are correct with regards to the overreaction of Google's YouTube service with respect to their perception of copyright violations. Specifically, I think that Rob's analysis of fair use is right on the mark. I mean, if full songs were being streamed via YouTube, that's one thing, but using songs intros, I feel, is quite another. Plus, as you stated, it's promotion and can easily be defined and positioned as such. I think the simplest way to solve defining fair use in terms of music would the application would in terms of music with the application of up to 30 seconds of use within one application of broadcast. I also think that a requirement of a broadcast credit being applied in the content itself as well. Perhaps say show notes would also need to accompany the use. I don't think. Oh man, what happened?
And I just lost your video.
Yeah. Okay. So hang on here. That was weird.
Mr. TriCaster strikes again.
Yeah, and we're actually getting an upgrade. What happened? Okay, we're back. We're good.
Oh yeah, there you are. You're back.
Yeah. So I know what happened. It was the switch made a little bit of a jump, but nothing actually died. All right, let me go back and finish this email. That was bizarre. Okay. He says. I think this is always okay. I already read that. Todd, can you clarify your comments regarding the use of apps to consume media? I think I may have misunderstood what your point was. I agree with you that content providers ultimately want to brand themselves and they want a one-to-one relationship with the audience. So traffic to our own branded websites is a must. However, I see apps as an extension to a brand. I really see them as nothing more than individual web browsers that format content in a condensed way for mobile consumption. They have staying power only because of the size of the mobile cell phone market today. Otherwise, I would regard them as something that will pass over time. What I'm not sure about is if statistics track mobile versus standard web browsers, or are these measurements lumped together? My own stats from the only episode that I have uploaded so far show all activity coming from mobile platforms. So we do break out um, mobile and the web. I think we have like 9 categories or something there. So we do break it out. What I thought I understood as your point was that due to the financial barrier to entry that I mentioned earlier, you felt it wasn't worth it for a podcaster to develop their own app for their show, and that only content networks were the ones developing apps for media consumption. But that you said Raw Voice has not developed an app and that you have no plans to, and that's when I lost you. Can you clarify me your position on apps relevant to an average podcaster? Do you feel that a podcaster should engage in developing their own app for content? Personally, I think for most content, unless you have a huge audience, I don't think the individual podcaster should. I think the money that you're going to spend is going to be a huge amount of money, and you're going to get very little bang for that. So far as the position of Raw Voice on developing a network app, we've made our site mobile ready, and we want people to be able to get the experience. We've never made Raw Voice / Blueberry a destination site per se. We've built apps for the television for like Roku and Boxee and Samsung, but we've never really focused a lot on the mobile space, largely because there's a lot of other options out there for people to get content. Swell's one of them. There's a number of other podcatchers. The Apple Podcast app is excellent for subscribing to shows. So I think from our standpoint is that we didn't know what added value we would bring to the audience from developing our own. We have an Android app, and from the utilization standpoint, we've seen we don't think that it's, and we don't promote it. Again, we're not a destination site. That's not our business model. So that's probably one of the reasons why we haven't done, the primary reason we haven't done an iOS app.
Yeah, Todd, and I think really the crux of his question is should should podcasters, and under what circumstances would a podcaster want to have an app? And I mean, my thought is exactly, kind of dovetails with what you were saying, is that you need to have a large audience, because what you're going to find is that the people that download that app are going to be your deepest fans, your most rabid fans, typically. It's not necessarily a great discovery method, and that app needs to deliver some value that that's not available in the aggregator apps.
Right.
So it's gonna require you to make original content just for that app, and if you don't have a huge audience that's passionate about your show, it's not going to really pay off for you to create original content just for this app that maybe goes to a couple hundred people. You're probably better off focusing your efforts on trying to make your main show bigger, right?
Putting some investment in a website developer and having them,
Yep.
put this great web experience and build your brand. I agree. So anyway, Ram, what the context was is that we were basically talking, about apps, and I'm not seeing a huge traction point of individual shows having their own apps. We don't see a lot of movement there. We do see a huge movement, obviously, in content being consumed on mobile devices, and it either through the Apple podcast app or variety of different apps that are out there that are, at least that we can see from a signaling standpoint. They're definitely being used in a big way, but individual apps we just don't see.
But there are players in
Right, there's a few.
the space that are pushing that as
Right.
a viable discovery option for individual podcast shows, and we don't agree with that necessarily. And I know that this
At
other
least I
company
don't.
is
Yeah.
is kind of pushing that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and believe me, if I saw traction on individual apps, I would be the first to say, get your app, because I'm a content creator, and I want to be found, my content to be found. So anyway, this is, let's wrap things up here. If you got comments on today's show, Todd or Rob at newmediashow.com. And we'll be back here, I think, next Saturday at same time, same place. Ram, where can they find you guys?
We're over at hello@swell.am. Email us there. I want to shout out to my co-founders, Keshav Benin, CTO, who's an absolutely amazing engineer, principal engineer at Amazon, chief architect at my last startup, Snaptel, and Dominic Hughes, who's an amazing machine learning mathematician, computer scientist, visiting professor at Stanford. Heard of them. Please, you can reach us at hello@swell.am, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your feedback on the app, and how how we can include your content and make it better.
Ram, one question I want to ask is, if a podcaster wants to get in your platform, what is the process that they need to go through, and can they just send you your feed somehow, or how does that work?
If you email us an RSS feed, that is absolutely, that's the easiest way for us to add that in our back office. We have a contact link on our website. We will be including more information for content providers shortly, and reach out to us. RSS feeds are, we can add them, very quickly into the service.
Can you say that email address one more time, Swell? Because I think Skype had a little hiccup.
It's hello@swell.am.
Okay, very simple. hello@swell.am. All right, very, very cool. Rob, thanks. Ram, thanks for being on. And to the audience, thanks for being here as well. And we'll see you next week with another great guest. Until then, everyone take care. We'll see you next time. Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
All right, 1 second. And those of you on YouTube, we'll see you later.